Again, though, let me find out for myself. In short, there was a legitimate... I mean, I'm not going to be wearing, like, lace underwear, but you understand my point. There's a running joke on this and Simon's other channels. I'm Simon, that's Kevin, he wrote it, I read it, that it's in the eyes and out the mouth with old fact boy. What were you saying, Kevin? At least, we call it a joke, but really it's more of a truism. It totally is. So, I mean, sometimes I'll be paying attention, but sometimes I'll just be like, wow, what did I just read? And then I'll watch it back and I'll be like, oh my god, it really looks like I'm paying attention. I'm so good at pretending to pay attention. Oh, wow. However, Simon isn't the only one to have this problem. Since Danny is from the UK, there have been episodes of Brain Blaze talking about crazy British laws, and I wrote an episode about the craziest laws in all 50 states here in the US. I remember that. That was back in the day. Based on the popularity of those videos, I decided it was high time we make a similar style video focusing on laws throughout the world instead of just our native countries. Okay then. So this sounds quite interesting. This was how I pitched it, but what I failed to remember is that Danny had already written not one but 2 episodes on the topic. Well then, let's hope they did well, because now it's time for the 3rd. Not only that, I personally wrote another very similar episode as well. Oh my god, don't remember any of this. Despite having watched all 3 of these episodes and written one of them, I had no recollection of their existence when I pitched this topic. What I'm saying is maybe we should stop giving Simon a hard time about not remembering every single word from the thousands of scripts that he's read over the last decade. Yes, that's right, I've been doing this for a decade. I'm gonna forget shit. My YouTube career, the start of the point in my career now, compared to when I started YouTube, is longer than since I was at high school. Which is crazy. And I don't remember anything from high school, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not going to, but maybe we should. It's illegal to own only one guinea pig in Switzerland. This is true, right? I know this fact. And spoiler alert, it's because the guinea pigs get lonely. And the Swiss didn't want them to have lonely guinea pigs. Hey, I'm not joking. I don't know why I made that sound. It's true. This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes building a website as easy as, well, I don't know, it's as easy as building a website with Squarespace. Nothing is that easy. Whether you're starting your first business or growing an existing brand, Squarespace has everything you need to create a stunning website so you can connect with your audience. From selling products to scheduling appointments, everything can be managed from one place, all on your own terms. So let's talk about how Squarespace solves the headaches of running a website. First up, design intelligence. This feature combines years of design knowledge with powerful AI technology, making it possible for anyone, no matter their skill level, to create a truly personalized website. It's like having a designer right at your fingertips. Then there's Squarespace Payments, which makes handling payments a breeze. You can get started in just a few clicks and accept payments in popular methods like Apple Pay or Klarna. That means more flexibility for your customers and more ways for you to get paid, which is nice. And look, if you're looking to grow your audiences, there's also Squarespace email campaigns. Fantastic. So head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/blaze to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Huge thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. And now, back to it. Speaking of remembering old content, I have no doubt that Simon will vividly remember having talked about this law 4 years ago on the now defunct Simon Whistler Show. Yeah, it's a podcast I had a crack at for a while, but it didn't really go anywhere. It's like, I don't know, like sometimes I'll look through like old Google accounts or whatever, like emails, because when you search in your password manager and you're like gmail.com and you scroll through and it's like, the boulevard of broken dreams. But for the rest of you, this may be brand new information. This is the kind of law that sounds insane when you first hear it, and may not believe it is true, but the explanation actually makes perfect sense. In Switzerland, it is illegal to own a single guinea pig. Sort of. Anyway, that's how the law is usually presented, but it is slightly more complicated than that. If I remember rightly, there's something like if the guinea pig dies, then there's a grace period, and you can rent a guinea pig so that you're not constantly... Because otherwise, it's like you buy a guinea pig, you have guinea pigs forever. You committed to a lifelong, and your children's children will have this lifelong guinea pig situation because you buy one, and then you have to buy a second one. One of them's going to die first, and then you've got to buy another one. And then that other one's going to die. And then you're just on this ladder of endless guinea pigs. I suppose you could just kill the remaining one and eat it. So, like, if one of them died of natural causes, then you're like, oh, I'm sorry, Jimmy. Your dinner. The law is actually that it's illegal to have a guinea pig in an enclosure by itself. So technically, if you only own one guinea pig and your next door neighbor also only owns one, that's totally okay, so long as you keep them together in the same enclosure. Okay, pet stores in Switzerland also offer guinea pig rental services. That way, if your guinea pig dies, I knew there was this. Oh my god, look, I'm not so dumb, I remember stuff. Then you can rent a companion for it while you seek out a more permanent solution. The permanent solution being death of the other one and then giving the other guinea pig back. Ideally, that permanent solution would involve picking out a new guinea pig that would make a suitable roommate, but I suppose you could always just drag it to a nearby gravel pit. Savage. Maybe you'll even find a smelly goat along the way to deal with as well. Okay. So why does this law exist? Rodents like guinea pigs make great first pets for children, specifically because they require so little effort and attention to raise. Even if the responsibility of caring for a rodent is minimal, do we really want to saddle children with double the responsibility? And this may come as a shock to anyone living in the United States, but people in other countries are capable of caring about things other than themselves. Savage, Kevin. You're in a spicy mood today, Kevster. Or whenever you wrote this. In this case, they're caring about the well-being of the animals. Guinea pigs are social creatures, and as such, they must be kept at the least in pairs. These laws extend beyond just guinea pigs, affecting all social animals that might be kept as pets. Yeah, like horses and goats, right? I think horses, there's this weird thing where it's like horses are social animals, right? So you have to have 2 horses, but obviously horses, bit of a commitment. So people get goats. So you have your horse and then you have its companion goat, because a goat's really easy to take care of. But the horse is just as happy with a goat. And the goat also is a social animal. And he's just as happy with the horse. It's so weird. But I suppose dog owners would be like, yeah, I wasn't alone all day. I was with Bingo, my dog. Of course, the specific regulations vary. For example, in Switzerland, rabbits are only required to be kept in a shared enclosure with other rabbits for the first 8 weeks after they're born. After that, they are required to be kept close enough that they can hear and smell other rabbits, but they're allowed to each have their own cage. Like I said, the law does actually make a lot of sense. It just seems weird when you first hear it without explanation. Also, according to the Swiss government, the ideal living situation is 3 female guinea pigs living with a single male. As my ideal living situation.
Just one.
My initial reaction to that is that I like the way the Swiss think until I got to the part about the male being castrated. Holy sh**. That is not my ideal situation. It is illegal to die. I'm not sure what's stranger, that there are multiple places around the world where it's illegal to die, or that the most commonly reported location doesn't actually have such a law. When these laws come up, I've never heard of this. It's usually in discussion about the Norwegian municipality of Longyearbyen. Longyearbyen? God, it sounds so Norwegian, doesn't it? Like, I don't know if I've ever heard Norwegian spoken, but Longyearbyen sounds like very Norwegian. Is the northernmost settlement in the world with a population of at least 1,000, and all are welcome. It was declared a visa-free zone, so anybody can pack their bags and move to Longyearbyen to become a permanent resident. Wait, there are places in the world like this? Wait, so you could just be like from North Korea and have like what must be the worst passport in the world and just go live in this random town in Norway. What? I mean, North Korea wouldn't let you leave, but theoretically if you did. There are obviously a few practical issues with that though. First, residency in Longyearbyen, no matter for how long, does not confer with it any benefits or a path towards Norwegian citizenship. Much more relevant is the fact that, as the northernmost settlement in the world, life there is going to be cold and shitty. There are 4 months of darkness in the winter. Oh my god, that would drive me mad. And 4 months of sunlight in the summer, which would also drive me mad. You'd be like, why can't it ever be dark? Which many people find disorientating.
You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it. I didn't see the light until I was already a man.
It gets so cold that people can find their bodies have trouble walking, and hungry polar bears both outnumber residents and like venturing extremely close to the city limits. I feel like calling this a city must be overdoing it, right? How big is this place? It's just, you just go there, it's just full of hundreds of thousands of North Koreans. In fact, polar bears are such a real threat that in many cases, anyone stepping outside is legally required to carry a gun to fend the bears off. But hey, you get possibly the greatest view of the northern lights anywhere on the planet. So why would this city, that seems to make survival so difficult, also be claimed to have made dying illegal? Well, that's because they made burying dead bodies illegal. The entire area is covered with permafrost, which keeps bodies perfectly preserved. A little too perfectly, in fact. In 1918, a group of miners who died of Spanish flu. Oh my god, are they digging it up and then they're getting the Spanish flu? That is some like horror movie right there. Decades later, their bodies were exhumed so scientists could study the effects of it being buried in permafrost, and that's how we got COVID. No, it was that meat market or whatever, wasn't it? Or maybe it was a lab. What's the status of that conspiracy theory? Where are we with that? No one cares anymore. Only for scientists to discover that the flu virus was still alive and well within their newly thawed bodies, waiting to infect new victims. For a moment there, I thought he was going to say that the people were alive and well. I was like, what? The freezing worked! They probably didn't use those exact words, since most scientists will tell you that viruses are never alive in the first place, but that's a separate topic. Anyway, given how deadly the Spanish flu pandemic was, this obviously raised serious concerns. With global temperatures rising, it's only a matter of time before the permafrost thaws. Once that happens, any bodies buried at Longyearbyen would be free to release the pathogens that killed them onto an unsuspecting population. This is how we get that zombie outbreak, isn't it? If I was writing a book about zombie outbreak, that's how it would start. It would be like some dude in the Arctic and he digs up like an old mammoth in perfect condition, and it turns out that it's a zombie mammoth. And then there's zombies. And they're fast, because fast zombies, way more scary. Like that movie, 28 Days Later, terrifying ass zombies. I don't like that they can run. I like my zombies slow. So, while it is technically not illegal to die in Longyearbyen, it is illegal to be buried there, and there is a social agreement that the terminally ill must all be sent to the mainland to die rather than staying on the island, especially since their bodies would have to be shipped off after their death anyway. That all said, while the most popular story is an exaggerated myth, there really are a number of places around the world where cities have made it illegal to die. Most of these laws were passed satirically, usually when the city's cemeteries are full and they refuse to either expand existing cemeteries or build new ones. On the island of Itsukushima in Japan, however, death was outlawed to maintain the purity of the Itsukushima Shrine, a sacred location in the Shinto religion. Well, I mean, this is one of those laws that's really unenforceable, because it's like, oh no, you're dead. You died illegally. It's like, well, what the fuck are you gonna do? They're dead.
By the way, do you happen to know what the fine is here in Cyrodiil for necrophilia? Just asking.
But in the interest of fairness, they also outlawed people being born on the island as well. Okay, fine. That was for spiritual reasons too. I've just found out every explanation of why to be much more confounding than their reasons for outlawing death. It is illegal to swear in Australia. This is another entry, isn't it? That one's done. Okay, done. Easy. It's illegal to swear in Australia. Everybody knows that the British are a bunch of cheeky... You can't say that word on YouTube, Kevin. It gets you instantly demonetized. The C word. And that Australia is just a penal colony for the worst of the worst that the British Empire had to offer. Pfft, steady, Kevin. You're saying it, not me. As such, it makes sense that this island is full of criminals. Jesus, Kevin, what? I mean, you can't say that, Kevin, no matter how true it might be. And it makes everyone prone to some pretty harsh language. And for the most part, it's true. Australians have a reputation for swearing a lot, and various studies suggest that the average Australian swears up to 20 times per day, which to my taste feels pretty fucking low. Oh my god, yes. I swear way more than 20 times a day, and most of the day I am alone in my office, and the rest of the time I'm around my children. So there's not exactly I don't swear around my kids, and there's not. I mean, I try not to. But yeah, I swear definitely more than 20 times a day. Definitely. And I'm not even Australian. I'm not even a criminal yet. Of course, another study that analysed the content of tweets from around the globe found that the United States was actually the most vulgar country in the world, with the UK in a distant second, and Australia nearly tied with the UK. Restricting the study to only tweets wasn't ideal methodology, but it was the easiest way to get a massive sample size that wasn't based on self-reporting. However, as common as swearing is in Australia, it's actually illegal to do so in public. The laws and penalties vary by state, but public swearing is a crime in every jurisdiction in Australia. In South Australia, a charge of public swearing can get a person fined $250. Shit. While in Victoria, it could be as much as $2,000 or spend 2 months in jail for a first offence. Are you shitting me, Australia? You f***s. As a weird side note, the Australian laws don't actually have monetary values attached to their fines. Instead, they use something called penalty units. In this case, the crime of swearing. In this case, this is some like, what's that movie where they go to the future? Demolition Man. This is some Demolition Man shit.
No more saying cuss words, guys. It's inappropriate and violent.
It's 10 penalty units, with each unit being worth $1,997.59. I assume that the point of this is so that the penalties for various crimes can be weighted relative to one another, and then the value of each penalty unit can be adjusted to match inflation. Yeah, I just assumed it was an inflation thing, especially when I saw that 197 point whatever number. It certainly seems easier than having to constantly amend laws to change the monetary fines, but this is really fucking clever. I'm quite impressed by that. That's a really good idea. But it still makes the laws awkward to read for someone who isn't familiar with the Australian legal system. Of course, there is one obvious question that arises when bringing up a law like this that seems so ridiculous.
What the is this?
Is this actually still enforced, or is it just some archaic law that has remained on the books despite the fact that nobody actually cares about it anymore? And in a way, kind of both. The law is definitely still enforced and on a pretty regular basis. However, most people are able to ignore the law because enforcement is extremely selective. Basically, public swearing laws are used to arrest people the police want to arrest, but have no other justification for doing so. As a fun little experiment that definitely won't make you feel horrible about the state of the world we live in, Indigenous people make up 3% of the population in Australia, yet they make up 33% of all public arrests of all arrests for public swearing. I mean, I was like, as soon as I said, like, they can arrest, it's just an excuse to arrest people. They don't have a reason to arrest. I'm like, let's get into that racism, shall we? Because you knew it was coming. If I ever learned anything from American conservatives, though, the reason for those glaringly disproportionate numbers is obviously just because Indigenous people swear at a much higher rate than white people. Yeah, I mean, obviously, white people are f***ing awesome. We're the best. It definitely... Please, someone's going to clip that. The last thing I've seen clipped, and just like on Twitter, like every fucking day, is just me shouting, "Look at my cock."
God, you're so disgusting. That's not white chocolate. That's your dick.
I know, well...
It's definitely not the result of systematic racism or selective prosecution, and the fact that Australian police are notorious for endlessly swearing in public is probably completely irrelevant to this conversation. And look, I get it. Every country has public decency laws. But just so we're clear, Australia's laws about public swearing don't describe aggressive or belligerent acts that would be considered inappropriate, if not illegal in most places. The law forbids literally any swearing. If Simon and I were walking down the street together in Victoria and I said, "Hey, did you see how f***ing insane that game was last night?" Within earshot of a police officer, I could wind up being arrested and sent to jail for the next 2 months. And knowing Simon, he probably wouldn't even bother bailing me out either, because doing so would mean he'd have to hear the rest of my sports anecdote. Yeah, I'm like, game, Kevin. Yeah, Kevin. Yeah, no, I watched the game last night. There was a ball and players. It's illegal to wear lace underwear in Russia, Belarus, and Kazakhstan. On the surface, this law might not even seem that weird. The governments of the countries in question are known to hate both freedom and women, so why wouldn't they make it illegal for women to express themselves in a way that makes them feel sexy? Wait, I don't think that... Russian politicians, if you hate women, you're just punishing yourselves by saying, no lace underwear. I know you're just wearing that for yourself, women. The reason this is weird, however, is because that's not actually what the law was about. I mean, maybe that was the real reason, but it wasn't the stated reason. When this law went into effect in 2014, it made international headlines. However, it had actually been passed back in 2011, so people shouldn't have been as blindsided by it as they were. And while the headlines all focused specifically on lace panties, they weren't the only garments affected. The rule originated with a customs union all three nations are a part of, and it was then passed by lawmakers in those countries. According to the text of the actual law, any clothing that touches the skin must contain at least 6% cotton for safety reasons. While this was a de facto ban on most sexy lingerie, which usually contains 4% cotton or less, it wasn't an explicit one. Normally, such a distinction wouldn't actually matter, as it would be an obvious smokescreen, but in this case, they actually had a point. Cotton is extremely absorbent, which can be particularly important when it comes to a person's more sensitive areas. Dark, moist areas are the perfect breeding grounds for bacteria, so underwear that doesn't absorb moisture carries with it a higher chance of infection. This is especially true if the underwear lacks breathability and traps moisture. I mean, yeah, fine, but how about you let people make their own decisions about whether they get infections or not? Maybe? Non-cotton garments are also frequently made using synthetic materials like polyester and rayon, and these materials can sometimes cause skin irritation, resulting in rashes and other discomfort. Again, though, let me find out for myself. In short, there was a legitimate... I mean, I'm not going to be wearing, like, lace underwear, but you understand my point. In short, there was a legitimate medical basis for this law being put into effect. So does that mean that the rest of the world is going to follow their example and outlaw sexy panties as well? Not chance. While it's true that lace and other materials may cause irritation, this is usually only for women with particularly sensitive skin. As for infection, the risk can be greatly reduced by alternating between lace and cotton underwear. Which, realistically, is going to happen anyway. I don't think there are a lot of women out there wearing sexy underwear on a daily basis, but if there are, proper hygiene goes a long way. As one British healthcare expert stated, it does make sense to raise awareness in women about the potential health risks of wearing fashionable but less hygienic underwear so they can choose for themselves. And I agree. But in Russia and its allies, letting women choose for themselves is not a high priority. It's illegal to pee in the ocean. Oh no! And here I was saying that I wasn't a criminal yet. Searching for weird laws on the internet is difficult because there's so much random bullshit and urban legends that the real laws can be hard to find. This wasn't quite as bad when I was focused on US laws, but it's a lot harder to verify the existence of specific statutes overseas where the country's laws aren't written in English. One of the fake laws I found was that it's illegal to pee in the ocean in Portugal. This was repeated countless times, and I can't possibly imagine why. Not because it wasn't an entertaining lie, but because all they had to do was travel one country over to Spain, where it really is a law. What are you doing? It's like just piss in the ocean. Everyone pisses in the ocean. It's natural. It's our natural state as people. In Spain. Got a problem with you now, Spain.
Are you Spanish?
No, I'm English.
Ah, good. We don't like Spanish.
In fact, it was while trying to verify the existence of the Portuguese law that I found a newspaper article from Portugal warning anyone traveling to Spain that peeing in the ocean is illegal there. What are they going to do? Like fish you out and be like, I knew you were peeing. Get in the truck. In the truck. What's it called? Please get in the van! Of course, the law doesn't apply in all of Spain. These laws have been passed on a city-by-city basis, but there are multiple of them in effect with fines ranging from €250 all the way to €750 for a first offence, depending on which city. Specifically, the statutes outlaw physiological evacuation at sea or on the beach, which raises a whole lot of questions. What physiological evacuation? Did you really have to call it that? Just call it peeing or urinating. That's scientific enough. And secondly, of course, don't piss on the beach. That'd be fucking weird. Piss in the sea like a normal person. Physiological evacuation is obviously referring to both poop and pee. Oh, okay. So just say urinate or defecate. Why use physiological evacuation? It's so weird. But I mean, who the fuck is taking a dump on the beach? It's a good question, Kevin. You might think the obvious answer is that they're saying you can't let your dog poop on the beach, but that can't be because dogs aren't even allowed on most beaches in Spain in the first place, including in the cities where these laws were passed. So seriously, who kept on everybody's sandcastles? The more important question, however, is how the hell they're supposed to police this. The thing about the ocean is that it's full of water, so it's not exactly obvious when somebody pees. Do they just have police on duty staring at the ocean all day, waiting until they see somebody stand still for just a little too long, maybe while letting out a relieved sigh? I'm like, yeah, they're just looking for this. Realistically, they probably just meant to write the law about the beaches, but while they were drafting it up, they figured there was no harm in including the ocean as well. There is harm though, because then people are going to be like, I need to pee, and then they're going to just take it. The next thing you know, they're taking it on someone's sandcastle. I am left with one final question though. All of the articles discussing the law talk about piss and but does the law in fact apply to all physiological evacuations? If so, I guess you'll just have to swallow because spitting is illegal. Kevin, that's where we're ending today's episode, are we? Shit. Thanks for being here. The Boulevard of Broken Dreams.